Hi, it's Louisa Dahl. And welcome to the Interactive Minds podcast, where I talk with passionate marketers, innovators, and digital leaders about their specific recipes for success. In today's show, I interview Felicity Loughrey, talking about her experience working with Gary Vee and how she launched a new company using influencers and PR. Here's 3 things you're going to learn. 1, why Felicity says Gary Vee is a template for the modern CEO. 2, how you can Google to get from a product idea to production. And 3, how to approach the new features of social media. Let's get into it. Today I'm here with Felicity Loughrey, co-founder of Summer Stories, and someone who has some very interesting career experience, ranging from online editor at Vogue Australia to creative director at VaynerMedia, and now a business owner. We look forward to hearing all about it. Welcome to the show, Felicity.
Hi, Louisa. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for coming along today.
Oh, thank you.
Now, as I explained in that brief intro, you've had some amazing experience over the years. Can you tell us a little bit around how your career started and take us through kind of at a high level the first couple of roles and experiences that you had?
Yeah, sure. I did journalism at the University of Canberra, and my first journalism job out of uni was working for a magazine called Black and White. I don't know if you remember it, Louisa.
No.
It was like naked celebrities in the 90s.
Right.
It was fantastic. It was a really, really good experience. They also published bridal magazines, a kind of a young fashion magazine, and a gay men's magazine called Blue, which was like this kind of arty men's magazine.
Awesome.
And it was kind of great. We were allowed to interview whoever we wanted. And I had editors there who really taught me how to write and to be a person in the workplace, I think.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then from there I went to New York and I was the Vogue Australia contributor for a very long time and worked for lots of the publications remotely, so GQ, Vogue Living, a lot of the Condé Nast ones, and then some American ones. And then I always kind of joke that 2008 is every magazine I wrote for closed. So
Tricky time.
I wrote for Parents magazine, they closed, Page 6 magazine closed, Cookie magazine closed. And so I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And a really good friend of mine showed me kind of how to copyright a website. And she's like, you can do this. And she sat me down and I took a bottle of wine to her house and she took me through it. And I started getting advertising agency work in New York. Awesome. So people like Sapient Nitro, JWT. And then eventually I got this job at VaynerMedia, and it was kind of like a crazy interview because at that stage they didn't really have a website, and I went there and I was like, what do you guys do here? Because it was really secretive and they didn't say who their clients were or anything, and I was like, what is it that you're after? And then I ended up working there for 2 and a bit years, and it was a hugely transformational experience for me, and I loved it.
Awesome. Did you know about Gary Vee before you started?
No, well, obviously I saw an ad on LinkedIn for the job, and so I obviously researched it before I went, and I was like, oh my gosh, because I found these videos and he was calling brand managers incredible swear words, and I was like, who is this person? Yeah. So I was curious, and this is a long time ago before he was on an Apple TV show with Gwyneth Paltrow kind of thing.
Yes.
But also, I mean, the public Gary is different to the private Gary, I would say. The person that you work for as the CEO is not the guy who's, I mean, he does kind of let loose, but his EQ is incredible. He's a very unusual person.
And did you have much to do with him day to day?
There's a Gary team, but if you're in a big meeting and it's a big client, you know, Gary gets pulled into the room, and if there's a problem, Gary gets involved. And he was in the office.
And what was some of your biggest takeaways in working with Gary? I mean, obviously over the years his profile's only grown, and he is, quite outspoken, I suppose, in the world of marketing and in particular digital.
I feel like he is like the new template for a CEO in a way. Like it's like every CEO I've ever worked for is like nothing compared to Gary. Like this is a guy who you can like imagine working for a company where you can tweet the CEO or you can DM them or he'll send around videos to the whole company. And it's just, it was good. He's a very, very unusual character and very accessible in a way that most CEOs aren't. And I think his success is because of who he is, and that's the thing. But I mean, one of his big rants is culture, and I think the culture at Vayner was like, it was just this assembly of the most incredible, unusual people you've ever met. And I think that's because the thing we worked on was so new.
Yeah.
And so I joke that it was like working at television at the dawn of television. So working in social media at the dawn of social media. Like we were there in 2013 when they turned off organic reach. And that was a big thing. And you're constantly going to meetings at Facebook, at Google, at Twitter. You know, you're really like entwined with these platforms, or they'll come and talk to you, or the Giphy people explain what Giphy, you know, like it was it was an amazing time.
Yeah. And did you think that having that connection with someone who has that kind of level of profile made a big difference in your day-to-day work?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I mean, there's Gary, the public person, and then there's the actual day-to-day work of an agency and dealing with clients and back and forth and making things move. I think he's a real pull for clients, and I think often, like, if a CMO sees him speak at a conference, they're like, oh my gosh, we should get VaynerMedia on board. But when you get VaynerMedia, you're not necessarily getting Gary.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And did he, you know, were his values and beliefs echoed by the organisation?
Yeah, I mean, even just kind of like small things, like he's really into football. I have no idea what American football is. And they do this thing called March Madness, and everyone has to put in a sweep. So I just like entered whatever. But I mean, imagine, do you mean like it's his company, he can do whatever he likes. Yeah. And if everyone has to compete in March Madness, so be it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. What were some of the things that you learned working in that environment that you still draw back to today?
So the people who were recruited very early on at Vayner, there was like a really big improv crowd, which is kind of like very New York. And I think a lot about the rules of improv and the workplace. And Tina Fey writes about this a lot. And Chloe Dalio, who works for Trinity London, talks about this. Like in improv, you can never say no. You have to say yes and. Yep. So if someone brings an idea, you're not allowed to say no to it. You have to build on it, and you have to make the idea better, or you have to bring a better idea. And another rule of improv is you can never make other people look bad. And it's a very kind of unusual, like it's an amazing way of working. Do you know what I mean? Like people aren't, the whole goal is to make the team work. And it's very, very team driven.
Fantastic. Yeah. I've been in I don't know what it was, I guess a conference where they took us through the yes and concept and how that's a good way to do innovation and brainstorming and to build together rather than kind of saying no as a default response.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where like so many large corporations that I've worked for have fallen down, is because they'll just say no to things. Yeah. And they don't say yes and.
Yeah, yeah. What else? What about from a social media perspective? Has there been anything that you've kind of taken with you, any approach or way of working that you learnt during that stage of your career?
Yeah, definitely. Like very, very passionate about like if there's a new feature, you have to try it out that first day and you have to make it work. And so being very, very open to new things. I've worked in organizations where people will be like, no, let's sit back and see how this unfolds. Whereas at Vayner, the very first day that like time-lapse came out, we all had to make time-lapse videos for our brands. Okay. And so always looking at hacking the platforms and like, okay, so what can I do here? What can I make this better? What are some of the like, maybe I could write a funny word in the like location, or do you mean like just constantly looking at how the platforms can be hacked and how you can play with it. And it's almost like very kind of like art school in a way. Like, how can I think about this in a different way?
Yeah. Is that something you still do now when new features come out?
Yeah, definitely. I'm always looking at things, and I'm kind of really into TikTok at the moment. Not like really into TikTok, but I think I'm like a TikTok influencer, Louisa. No, I just think that like, should summer stories be on TikTok? What would summer stories look like if it was on TikTok? How do I make this work for summer stories? And then, of course, like old Vayner friends of mine are on there, and they're doing stuff. Like one person I know, Amber Vittoria, she has a TikTok and she's kind of showing her art, and she's talking about being a woman artist on TikTok. And I just thought that, the people I worked with will use these platforms in the most unusual ways that are really eye-opening.
It must be fascinating to have those kind of influencers to follow and, see what they're doing and be able to build that and expand from there.
Yeah, and I think like I have lots of thoughts on the internet. Like I think you can create the internet that you want, and if you do follow like women artists on Twitter, your Twitter is like completely your thing, and you can make it into this world.
Yeah, definitely. So have you posted anything on TikTok yet for your brand?
No, Sarah, no. But I did get us live on Depop because I was reading a lot of Depop articles. Have you seen Depop?
No, I haven't. Tell us more.
Oh, it's big. It's out of the UK. Apparently it's really big with millennials. It's like a shopping app that's kind of like Instagram meets eBay kind of thing. And there's even funny Depop memes. No, you'll go down a Depop rabbit hole. Because people like will message people on Depop and be like, can I have this for 2 cents? And they're like, no, go away. And people do bundles, and there's a whole subculture around Depop. But yes, if anyone wants to go on Depop, Summer Stories is there.
Great.
And we've got all our products. And buy them on Depop. Got it on Depop.
We'll definitely be checking it out. Now tell me, so you went from working with VaynerMedia in New York and then you ended up in Brisbane. That must have been a massive change for you. Tell us a little bit about that move from Vayner. And I know you went to the Australian government at that point, or Queensland government, was it? And from New York to Brisbane. Tell us what that was like.
Well, I have children, and my eldest son was about to enter middle school, and it's like, wow, he's about to be fully American. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
we should probably go home. And so we moved back to Australia. I've got to say, like, I love Brisbane, and like I love walking down the street, and I love seeing like the tropical flowers. And I think I was insane for the first few years. I was just like dizzy on the beauty of like gum trees, and I was like, oh my God, this is so gorgeous. And I think there's a lot of really cool stuff happening here. Like there's tons of great brands. There's a girl, she has a website called Hey Harlow, Gabby Simonian. I don't know if you've come across it, but Gabby was new to Australia. She came from the UK and works in digital and has set up this brand, Hey Harlow, online. And for her, it was like when she came to Australia, she's like, oh my God, there's so much cool stuff here. There's so much gorgeous stuff. And it really inspired her. And I was like, yes, I feel the same.
Good. Excellent. And from a career perspective, it must have been quite different in terms of the opportunities that, were in Brisbane versus New York.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a VaynerMedia in Brisbane. Do you mean like Vayner was like a 700-person company that just did social media? It doesn't exist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's kind of like, you know what? There's good things and bad things.
How did you decide what to do when you came back?
I think I pretty much just like, yeah, that's a really good question, Louisa. How did I decide what to do? I think when I came back, I met with a lot of people.
Yep.
And I was kind of looking at things, and I had tons of ideas when I came back. And Summer Stories was actually one of the ideas that I had when I came back to Australia, because I was in the supermarket and I was like, why is everything so ugly? And why are there no Australian ingredients in these products? And I wrote kind of the initial idea for Summer Stories in those kind of first few months I came back to Australia.
And that was a few years ago now.
Yes, and then I sat on that idea for a while, and I would share it with friends, and they'd be like, zooming back and forth.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I mentioned it to Tim, and I was like, I've got this idea, and he had a similar idea, and we ended up doing it.
Excellent. Now, Tim is someone who I interviewed a few episodes ago.
A great interview. I listened to it.
Excellent. So that was episode 15, and Tim has founded this organisation with Felicity. So tell us a bit more about it, Felicity.
Okay, so Summer Stories, we're a shower essentials line. We have really great packaging. It's made by Badlands out of Sydney. Our ingredients are just incredible. There's like quandong, there's finger lime caviar extract, there's lemon myrtle, and they just smell fantastic in the shower. And we're direct to consumer. People can find us online. We've got a retailer, The Common Thread, and a few other kind of smaller things happening, but yeah, it's kind of funny because it started the idea this year as an idea, and now it's real.
Awesome.
It exists.
So when did you launch?
Sorry?
When did you launch?
I think we were fully live in September. I need to keep a better track of this for celebrating anniversaries and stuff.
Yes, you'll have to go look that date up. But that's not long ago. I mean, it's November when we're recording this, so it's been a couple of months. Tell us about how you give us a little bit of background, I suppose. So you went from having an idea and, from where I'm sitting, going and producing a product of this nature isn't something that, I've got the contacts or the knowledge to do. So how did you go about that?
There's that book. It's not a great book, but Girl Boss by Sophia Amoruso.
Yep.
It's kind of not probably the book I'd recommend, but there is one line in that book where she says, "How did I get into business? I Googled everything." And so honestly, we just Googled and Googled and Googled until we found a manufacturer that we could work with, some chemists we could work with. And do you know what I mean? And I think Google is the secret to business in 2019.
It does have all the answers, doesn't it?
It does. And you just have to keep sifting through it and finding the thing that you're looking for.
So you developed this product and developed the packaging, which I know is very important to, you mentioned before, you wanted it to look good. What then? When did you, once you got the first batch of product, how did you go about launching it?
I was kind of a magazine background person. Of course, I reached out to a lot of press. We've gifted it to a lot of press people. And actually on my desk right now, I've got Real Living magazine and we're in the Christmas gift guide.
Oh, good.
So we've been getting kind of a lot of press. Also reaching out to influencers has been really great. And I think fascinating, Louisa, I don't know if you want to go down this rabbit hole, but the work that they've created has been so good. And it's basically often a girl in Melbourne and you send her the product and 2 days later you get back high-res images and they look amazing and they're fantastic. And
excellent.
I'm using them everywhere.
So tell us, let's go into this a little bit because I know influencers is something that, is coming up a lot. We're talking about it a lot and hearing about it from a range of different angles. So I'd be keen to understand, how did you find the right influencers for your brand? Were there any learnings along the way?
Yeah, and I think this is also a Gary rant, is that influencers are massively undervalued and that it's almost like their feed is like a TV show that people watch. Do you mean they are the media?
Yes.
And in terms of choosing them, we've really kind of been looking at people around the 10K mark. So not massive, but people, I think the smaller they are, the more engagement, or you kind of feel very close to that person. And, in marketing, word of mouth is kind of everything. And if it's from someone you kind of trust and know and follow and you see their day-to-day life, that actually has meaning. And I think influencers are amazing with what they create. They're doing 10 jobs at once.
Yeah.
They're creating content, they're writing the captions, they're scheduling stuff, there's strategy. There's I imagine for every piece of content, there's 10 emails behind that. Yeah. So I think they're very, very undervalued and underestimated. And they're just so much. I've had a really good experience.
Are you using any platforms to find and manage your influence?
No, just very kind of manually. They obviously have a spreadsheet of people we wanted to reach out to. And we've been working on this idea for a whole year. So every time I see someone, I just be like, oh, I like that. I'll put that in the spreadsheet. Do you know what I mean? And like, so by the end of the year, you've got like a pretty good list of people that you want to kind of connect with.
And when you typically engage an influencer, what types of, elements are you negotiating in there?
The two kind of main ones I'm thinking of is around imagery, and reaching out to them and being like, I really love your feed. Can I send you some product? And they usually say yes. Yeah. And then before you know it, they're sending you images that they've created. And I think for them, a lot of them, it's kind of like a lead funnel kind of arrangement in that then they like to charge people for creating those images.
Yeah. And so are you getting those images for them to post on their own channels or for you to use on your channels or both?
Some people, I mean, obviously if they want you to post them to post you on their channels, they will ask for money for that. That we have mostly been, the two influencers I'm thinking of have been like, hey, we would love to use your images because images are gold. Like I can use them in emails. We can use them on the website. I can send them to press. I can use them on our Instagram. So it's a huge, like, it's a gift.
Yeah, yeah. So how many influencers would you see that you're going to be kind of dealing with over the next couple of months?
I think like it's like how long is a piece of string?
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like every day we're reaching out to people, and I almost see it as like an always-on content plan. It's not like in 2019 we will reach 12 influencers. Yeah. No, we want to be constantly engaging with people.
Yeah, so it's a big part of your strategy in terms of how you plan to get the brand out there.
Yes, definitely.
Excellent. Have you had any challenges working with influencers so far?
No, but we haven't really gone after, a Kardashian or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like they've been very, very manageable, terrific, amazing, creative women, mostly based in Australia.
Fantastic. Excellent. And what else have you done to launch? So you've done some PR, which sounds like it's been getting some traction for you, and you're exploring the influencer route. How else are you telling people about your amazing product?
I'm a huge podcast fan, Louisa. So within that kind of influencer universe, we've been particularly targeting women with podcasts and sending them product.
Yes.
Just because I think podcasts are so seductive and so again, that word of mouth when you're hearing it is so intimate that I really want those women podcast influencers to be like, you know what? I love some stories when they talk to their audience.
Yeah. And I should say here, guys, I have not been sent any product yet.
I know. And as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't sent anything to Louisa. What am I doing? I need to get you some product.
This is purely an interview around marketing.
After the interview, I'll ask you what your hair type is.
I do look forward to trying it out. So where from here, and how are you going so far in terms of getting some traction? Obviously, selling direct to the customer is something that maybe is a little bit more challenging in this space. Where are you going with that, and how do you find it to date?
The thing that I'm kind of really excited about at the moment is that we want to do a body wash. It's like the biggest piece of feedback that we've got from people is like, oh my God, I love the scent. Can I get this as a body wash? And we're like, okie dokie. So we've been trying to, a dream scenario would be to have it out before Christmas. I don't know if that's going to happen, but really to build the range, we have a product roadmap where we've mapped out a range of products that we would like to build into the range. And the funny thing about hair is that everyone has different hair, and the products we have might not work for you, but we want to build something in the future that will.
Yeah. And have you considered, from a distribution perspective, partnering with any other distributors or working that way, or are you fairly set on kind of being the sole point of distribution?
No, we're open to anyone's distribution. So please email us at hello@summerstories.com.
Excellent. If you've got a channel, let us know.
You want to talk to us. Actually, last night we were talking to someone in the UAE who's doing kind of like a Birchbox project.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounded really fun. And we're like, let's talk.
Yeah, awesome. And you're obviously a few months into this now, but very early days, I suppose, in the scheme of things. Have you set kind of goals for the the business and where you're wanting to go with the product at this point? Or how are you kind of tracking how you're going?
That's it. Yeah. So we obviously work for the factory and they're closing down in January and it's their one break of the year. And I really said to myself, okay, January strategy month, because I can't be, do you know what I mean? Like they're not going to be available.
Yeah.
So, and also I think media shuts down, everything kind of shuts down in Australia in January.
Yes.
So in my mind, I'm like, January is strategy and really just mapping it out. I think, we're like 1st of December today. I almost just want to get to Christmas.
Yeah, I know. It's a very slippery slope from here. And I think by the time everyone hears this, it will be probably just after Christmas, I think. We're very much in the thick of that.
I've got my strategy post-it notes.
Yes. So next time we talk, I'm sure you'll have all that figured out or due to be doing so very soon. Excellent. And are there any challenges that you've overcome as part of launching this product that you think might be useful for someone else who's in a similar situation?
Oh, good question. I think the hardest thing is that I don't physically make the product myself, so I don't have control over that. Do you know what I mean? Like the factory closing down in January and I'm like, oh, but good for them. That's great. But I understand it. Yeah, I think that's challenging and I don't know how to overcome it.
I guess it's a scale problem to some degree too, is it? Because
and actually scale is a really good example because obviously the more units you buy of something, the cheaper it is. And I think our goal is to get to scale as fast as we can.
Yes.
Not as fast as we can. But do you know what I mean? Like that is always the goal for a business to grow and there are so many benefits when we hit scale.
Yes, definitely. And now I assume that you're working, you and Tim in a much smaller team and, perhaps without the support or day-to-day environment of having colleagues around you. How are you managing that process and what's any learnings that you found throughout that way?
I'm quite happy working on my own or with other people. Like I was a freelance writer for a really long time. So this kind of work feels very natural to be working on my laptop, emailing people, chatting on Slack. Like it actually feels very comfortable.
Yeah.
No, I like it. And I mean, the thing I would say is working with Tim is just such a gift because we have completely complementary skill sets. You know what I mean? Like he's a certified accountant. I have like writing experience. Yeah. And we've got such opposite skills that it's really, I know I've done lots of things in the past and I feel like this is such a good experience because there are these complementary skill sets.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. If people want to find you, where's the best way they can reach out?
I would love for them to follow Summer Stories on all of our platforms. It's actually Pinterest is something that I'm really passionate about for Summer Stories. And Louisa, I think I told you in an email, my true love is my newsletter that I have. It's tinyletter.com/Head Ovary Heels.
Awesome.
And if people subscribe to the newsletter, that would be awesome.
Great. We'll put a link in the show notes to that as well.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Felicity. It's been great to have you and hear about all your wonderful experiences, and we wish you all the best with Summer Stories.
Oh, thanks so much, Louisa. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please remember to subscribe. My recommended action item from today's show is to look at Depop and to plan for how you will respond to the next social media feature you hear about. You can access today's show notes at interactiveminds.com/podcast. This is episode 27 and our last podcast episode for 2019. Thanks for being part of this journey with us, and we'll see you next week in 2020.